Where are we going, Vagrus?
Let's check if there are any active bounties in the region. The bounty office is housed in a small, dilapidated building behind the courts. A group of unsavory types is awaiting in front of it to be called in. Bounty hunters. Mean-looking trophies and cruel weapons hang from their belts. We wait in line to speak to the general bounty officer, who turns out to be a retired orc bounty hunter with an eye patch. His single remaining eye sizes me up as I step forward, as if weighing my worth before I've even said a word. I've learned that there have been strange disappearances in Scoria. The orc bounty officer gives me a strange look.
That business? I'm not sure if it's Collegia getting rid of people and telling ghost stories, or if it's a prank. But neither the Avernus Legion nor our bounty hunters found anything when they took a look at the place. These warehouses are about to collapse, you know. There was something shifty there a decade or so ago. Some slave lovers ran an operation out of them or whatever. I mean, there is a reward of 10 silver for finding out what is causing the disappearances. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Still, want to take it?
We'll take it.
Right, be my guest. Now, if you were expecting some pointers, I can't help you with that. The Avernus fuckheads combed the whole place, streets, warehouses, neighborhood, and found squat. Allegedly. Well, you never know with them. But who knows? You might be able to find something that they were oblivious to.
I take note of the address, so I can find the warehouses in Scoria from now on. Are there any other problems in the region?
We have received reports that a large herd of smoldering undead has gathered in that area. It's not uncommon, though the Arscalites claim that this coterie is getting much larger than they like. Still not big enough to warrant action from the army or the church, so it's good business to us bounty hunters. You need some tough warriors for this one, though the payout is big, 42 bros all in all. Want to take them on?
I pause for a moment, casting a glance at Gorgoro beside me, before accepting the bounty.
Do us a favor and don't get yourself killed. Not because we are such great friends, but because we believe those slain by the Undead Horde join their ranks in death. As I said, they were seen to the northwest of here, rough terrain. Even such a huge group can hide well in the gullies. Oh, and should you find the source of the menace, we'll pay extra.
Do you realize what you've just agreed to, Vagrus?
Perfectly well, Gorgoro. I know I'm taking a huge risk for the comitatus by leading us into a fight against an undead army.
Then why accept it?
To understand, to explore, and potentially to save someone. And if it turns out to be too dangerous, I'll order a retreat. I'll let you recruit as many mercenaries as you can, and don't lie about the job. Make it clear that many may never return.
At your command.
After a long search, we finally find the place where the disappearances occurred. The neighborhood, where the warehouses stand, looks even worse than the rest of Scoria. It is right next to the city's curtain wall and beside the rows of abandoned storage facilities, mostly dilapidated tenements. I am not at all shocked that people go missing here. Not many of the decrepit inhabitants of the area are willing to talk to me, but the few that do share stories, usually tied to the disappearances. Horrible sounds echoing through the night, strange and acrid smells drifting between the buildings. A persistent rumor claims that one of the warehouses is haunted, and that people began vanishing when the haunting started. Of course, all of this comes from bogweed junkies, booze-soaked wrecks, and spiteful gossips, so I take it with a grain of salt. For a few coins, I learn that the rusty Pugio used to be the favorite haunt of veterans and soldiers, but has fallen upon hard times, and is now a rather nasty public house where local alcoholics buy their cheap booze. After paying for a couple of rounds, the regulars begin opening up about the problems of the neighborhood, including the recent disappearances of its denizens. I learned that the Avernus Legion's investigation was fairly bare bones.
Them Avernus dicks did shit.
He ain't a wrong. But can you blame him? Those damned warehouses have been cursed for more than 10 years now. That's when a massacre went down in one of them. Then painted the streets round the buildings red with blood. Scoria did killing them slave lovers, they say. They say them rages use twisted curses and torture to interrogate the sad cunts. And that their souls are still screaming in the night, if you believe in such things.
This woman is completely insane.
Getting nothing else, we head toward the designated place. It takes me only a few minutes to locate the warehouses in question, then to find the supposedly haunted one. It is a large building in a fairly sad condition. The once yellow paint has all but flaked off, and nobody has bothered to clear the ash, covering the roof and the walls facing the inner city. The inside of the long warehouse is engulfed in complete darkness, so I take out some lamps. But even then, the surrounding twilight seems to drink the light, and I can feel the place's oppressing aura. The place is completely abandoned, and judging by the inside of the main storage room, it is a sort of miracle that it is still standing considering the level of neglect. Dust and ash cover the surfaces, but other than some nondescript debris, the warehouse is empty. The sour stench adds to the uncomfortable sensation that overwhelms me. After a first sweep, we find no sign of any activity or haunting here, let alone clues as to what happened to the people who went missing. Finderath, do you detect anything magical?
Dark magic permeates the place. Not the decaying stench of misused necromancy, but the acrid smell of brimstone heralding a demonic affliction, suggesting that the haunting spoken of by the locals was misunderstood. And yet, despite my efforts, I cannot pinpoint its source, which means it must be concealed nearby.
Search more carefully, everyone. Nothing new turns up until, all of a sudden, Garrick become aware of a strange draft in a certain spot.
There are no windows, and the door is shut. I am certain that some form of hidden chamber exists beneath the warehouse.
At length, we find it. Flagstones in the corner of a side room, opening from the main storage hall, can be removed to reveal a pit. The ladder leading down into the pitch-black hole seems rickety, but careful probing confirms that it can still be used to descend. Once at the bottom of the pit, I can see that a tunnel leads further down and beneath the warehouse. Moreover, someone has been using it recently. The footprints in the wet earth cannot be older than a day or so. Taking my team deeper into the bowels of the earth, through the claustrophobic tunnel, I eventually reach a stone slab, much like the lid of a sarcophagus blocking the way. Faint light escapes the chamber beyond, only visible through the cracks surrounding the makeshift barrier. Once the slab is shoved aside, I enter a surprisingly spacious chamber that could be a wine cellar, if not for the red candles, the demonic symbols, and the odd sacrificial altar at the far end, complete with totems fashioned from human bones and flayed skin.
The large circle riddled with glyphs reminds me of summoning circles utilized by certain mages.
It is dangerous.
Maybe.
We have no time to contemplate what exact purpose the room serves, because a shrill cry pierces the air, and I have just enough time to turn around and face my attacker. A man, previously unseen, probably hiding in an alcove, rushes at me with a bone dagger raised in his hand. Unfortunately for him, my companions step in, placing themselves in front of me to protect me. There is a wet, splashing sound, and a moment later, the man is sprawled on the ground, clutching at his horrible head wound, and yet somehow still manages to let out a maniacal laugh before dying. There are a few moments of silence, but before anyone can react, the dead man's blood literally bursts out of his wound, flies in an arcing line to the summoning circle, and splashes across the symbols. The candles flare up with a crimson light before going out completely. A loud ripping sound follows as a strange, fell doorway opens in the air above the circle, and accompanied by malevolent hissing, a horned humanoid shape leaps out of it. I gather the strength of mind to bark an order to attack, because I realize that whatever this demonic creature truly is, we will have to defeat it to survive the cellar. Harvek was the first to react to the atrocity, immediately realizing how agile it was. Its claws struck Renkailon square in the chest, but he answered with a vicious sword slash. Taking advantage of the chaos, Gorgoro brought his axe down with brutal force. Likely sensing the magic, the demon evaded Finderath's electric barrage, but failed to dodge Renkailon's flying knives. Harvek tried once more to impale it, unsuccessfully, but Gorgoro ended it with a decisive blow. The demon hisses one last time as its broken body falls onto the summoning circle, and after a few final twitches, it finally goes limp. Within moments, its body decays into a state reminiscent of a decades-old corpse. The chamber is silent now, and my group finds nothing valuable or interesting. Yet I cannot help but wonder what happened here. Was this madman, now lying with a bashed-in skull at my feet, the summoner, and therefore responsible for the disappearances? Was he kidnapping and killing locals to call the demon again and again in some vain attempt to gain its favor? Was all this possible because of horrible things that happened here long ago? Probably, but the rules of such immaterial phenomena are not easy to decipher even when all the details are laid out. The only thing left now is to report my findings to the authorities and hope that they will believe me. We leave the cellar, but not before taking the demon's horn with me. After such a day, I can only grant my men an evening of rest.
Vagrus, we are going to have a problem. The number of men is creating tensions within the comitatus.
What should be done, in your opinion?
Replace some of the workers with slaves. With fewer rights, they are easier to manage.
I understand.
If it troubles you, you may always grant them their freedom later.
Just before leaving, I stock up on supplies. You never know.
I find it surprising that Ashkol, who holds power over death, cannot destroy these savage hordes.
Who is to say he simply doesn't care to?
That is one way of seeing things.
My sentinels spot them first, a large horde of smoldering undead creatures stumbling about in an area of jagged gullies and ravines. This must be the coterie of abominations I was sent to eliminate by the bounty offices of Avernum. After I overview the situation from a vantage point, it becomes clear that fighting them on this rough terrain could be challenging, although at least the undead cannot gang up on my fighters if I maneuver them right. My fighting crew descends into the ravines to take on the undead as the earth rumbles and lava flows sizzle in the distance. To my dismay, a handful of lumbering white figures appears out of hidden crevices to join the smoldering walking corpses. These large abominations tower over the rest of the undead, and my warriors alike, striking fear into the hearts of their opponents. To my shock, the horde moves in a clever, almost coordinated manner to cut us off from retreat and tries to surround us. My men are doing their best to organize this influx of undead, and each has chosen a more defensive approach. With a knot in their stomachs, the men charged into the melee, carried forward by a war cry. Several of my men fell almost at once, even as undead creatures collapsed around them. Nevertheless, a well-executed stratagem allowed us to overwhelm two of the largest undead. Now outnumbering them, The remaining undead were little more than a walk in the park. With several of my men, I rushed toward the wounded, trying to save as many lives as possible. Unfortunately, 9 people lost their lives, but we are victorious. Following my instructions, my fighting crew used the ravines and crevices to their advantage and defeated the Smoldering Horde, along with the large, ashen abominations. The victorious warriors walk around the valley and dispose of any stragglers. Renkailon approached me to speak to me.
Vagrus, I saw something odd during the fight. A lone figure appeared up there, as if watching the battle. By the time we won, it was gone. Didn't look undead to me, though it was pretty far off. Others have noticed it too.
Could it be the one controlling the abominations? A skilled necromancer's presence would explain the uncharacteristically coordinated movements of the undead. Just to be certain, I send out some of my cums to find signs of recent activity. A quarter of an hour later, they return to inform me that there are indeed tracks leading northwest, left by a single individual. The lair must be there among the line of rough hills rising above the lava plains. I begin the long ascent, which is made increasingly difficult by the smog and hot air near the rumbling volcanic flows of the Molten Tongue. As I am making my way up the hill, following what looks like a path, I come across small signs of habitation, piles of rock stacked by someone, arcane symbols carved onto bare stone surfaces, even yellowed skulls placed on outcroppings. At length, I reach a plateau between several tall hills. It is shielded from most of the smog and hot winds by a jagged dark rock crown, but I can also see quite far from it. There is also a cave at the far end, but before I could move even a step further, an emaciated man in a dark tunic steps out from its entrance, followed by an ashen, gigantic undead creature that looks like it was fused from several petrified corpses. Smaller, smoldering undead also emerge from behind rocks. The man cackles and points towards me.
You should never have come here, fools. Now I can take my revenge for your wanton destruction. Do you have any idea how long it took to assemble my herd?
Renkailon immediately hurled 2 knives at the immense creature, followed by Gorgoro, who tried to draw its attention. It worked, as Harvek drove one of its heads down to the hilt against his shoulder. Garrick tried to kill the Necromancer, but failed. Nevertheless, Finderath managed to land a hit. Having closed in, the 2 undead targeted Harvek, but he managed to slip between their claws. Understanding the threat, numerous projectiles were hurled toward the Necromancer, who moved erratically in every direction. Probably exhausted, the Necromancer failed to notice the electrical discharge in time, which pinned him in place. Enraged, he hurled his creatures forward with renewed ferocity, wounding my companions. Renkailon leapt onto the flesh golem, just as Garrick finally blew the Necromancer's head apart. With only the undead remaining, Finderath discovered that the abomination was immune to his magic. Without a mage to guide them, the undead became feral and even more dangerous. Perched on the golem's back, Renkailon managed to drive his blade deep into one of its heads. Surrounded on all sides, the 3 men struck again and again to finish off the abomination, while Garrick killed the second undead. Then, at last, as the abomination fell to its knees, Gorgoro destroyed its final head. The Necromancer is killed at last, his death shriek still ringing in my ears, and with his demise, the undead here also crumble to ash and burned bones. Searching the man's lair gives me no better understanding of why or how he did what he did, but at least I gather some valuables. Ivory and bone. I can haul back to the comitatus some carvings of bone that could only have been made by a madman, and an odd, warm, heart-shaped black stone with fiery veins all over it, which is certainly magical. The handful of salvaged dwarven gadgets and scrap metal in the cave indicates the Necromancer was actively seeking these curios. Eventually, I gather my companions and turn to leave.